Call tracking is a service offered by Equa Marketing to help monitor, track, and categorize your clients' daily phone calls received. By using the assigned number on the client's website and even social media, this system breaks down the received calls on many variables. This enables you to see if our marketing is working, and if not, what areas we need to focus on for improvement. This call tracking system comes with many features that will help you see crucial areas of how a client's potential patients are coming in, how long calls are lasting, if they're being answered, and even the top day and time that the calls are received. In order to get a client started with call tracking, the tracking numbers will need to be purchased. From there, designated numbers will be connected to the receiving numbers. This will more than likely be the practice number. Now let's go to Numbers and then click Tracking Numbers. This section will show you the tracking numbers on your client's account, as well as gives you the option to purchase more tracking numbers. Here you will find statistics on each tracking number, as well as cost and renewal dates. Now let's go to Numbers and then click on Receiving Numbers. Here is where you will find all the receiving numbers on your client's account and what tracking numbers are assigned to the receiving number, as well as the total number of calls. From there, we will take a look at tracking sources. This report will show you the sources that the tracking numbers are set up on. For example, Google Organic, a website, Facebook, Twitter, Google Maps, and so on. You will also see how many tracking numbers each source has. Let's go over to calls and then look at the call log. This is a mega report of information with various tools for you to utilize. In the first column, you can call the client back or make notes about the call. Through the call log screen, you can identify any flaws or missed opportunities, or identify trends in terms of how calls are coming in without having to listen to the call. How do you do this? Let me give you an example. Dr. Smith targets a nearby city to Los Angeles. Dr. Smith now wants to target the city of Los Angeles, hoping that he would get more patients. However, through Google Analytics, we see that Dr. Smith's website is getting a majority of website visits from the city El Monte, even though we don't have any articles or work focused on that city. If the client does not believe the data or firmly believes that we can get better patients if we target Los Angeles because his office is closer to Los Angeles, or the client simply does not believe a patient would drive 20 minutes from El Monte to the office, then this is how you can prove your point. First, you're going to export the call data. In the call log sheet, go to the second button shown in the far right-hand corner, the cloud icon, and click on it. It will allow you to get a full log of the calls. But remember, in the download call log sheet, you have to define a time range. The larger the time range, the greater evidence you can get to identify trends. Once you have downloaded the call log sheet, look for the city the caller is registered under. If we can identify that a majority of callers are indeed coming from El Monte rather than Los Angeles, then we can prove to Dr. Smith that we get an X number amount of calls from El Monte, and if we actually focused on the city by posting articles, doing external SEO, and targeting keywords with the city name El Monte, then we could territorially increase the callers 2 to 3 times within 4 to 5 months, rather than guessing that we can get patients from Los Angeles. Let me show you another example. Dr. Smith gets 100 calls a month, but the client says there is hardly anyone calling or any new patients. Most clients assume the number of callers which call and hang up without leaving a voicemail is very low. But in most offices, this segment of callers are extremely high. Most callers, if they can't get through once, will find another doctor or service provider online and never call again. How to prove the point? First, you can filter the calls with a low talk duration. So we can assume anything with a talk duration of less than 10 seconds hung up before leaving a voicemail. In the call log sheet, click on the button Filter, and in the filter window, under the segment Call Length Filters, for the record All Calls by Talk Time, select the checkbox. Then move the blue slide box slightly to the right so the system indicates that it will filter and show only calls with a talk time of less than 10 seconds. Next, define a date range. It is best to select a 2-month date range. However, call trends can even be identified within 1 month's worth of data. But never try to identify trends less than 2 weeks worth of data. Finally, click on the Apply button and filter the calls and see how many callers hung up or was never answered. You can find the numbers and then search for them to see if those users called back. The numbers which did not call back are potential new patients which Equus Efforts created but was missed by the client. The stats can be highlighted to the client. Ideally, the client or the office manager or receptionist can go through the list and identify such callers and call them back. Even if just a few of those callers were contacted back and if they made an appointment, can be worth $2,000 to $3,000 in US dollars over several months with repeat appointments. Let's move on. To make a note about the caller or the phone call, simply click on the notes icon. The Caller Contact tab allows you to create the caller's profile. In this area, you can make any notes about the phone call, and then once you are finished, click on the Save button. In the Score column, this allows you to score the phone call. By clicking on the icon, the Sale tab will appear. In this section, you will be able to add a reporting tag, rate the call, note whether or not the call was converted to a sale. In the next column, Audio, you will be able to listen to the phone call. Simply click on the audio icon. You will be able to hear the recorded call or the phone message if the call was not answered in time. In the last column, Actions, you have a few action items to select from: block, exclude, and email. To email the call, click on the email icon and you will be able to add an email address and add a message along with the recorded call that you wish to send. Block will block the caller, and exclude will exclude the call from the list if it does not pertain to what you are using call tracking for. Now, we are going to look into the specific of reports. Starting out at Reporting, then Overview, you will see a real-time overview of statistics on phone calls. This overview alone can tell you many things. You have total calls, which is the number that gives you the total of all calls received. Total callers, this is the number of calls answered. Average ring time, this can be beneficial because a caller doesn't want to sit and listen to 19 rings before being helped. This can mean that the client may need another person helping with phone calls or even an answering service. Average talk time, this is the average talk time of all calls received during a specific period. Top call source, this tells you where the client's callers are finding them, for example, search engine, referral website, and so on. Top call day, this tells you when your clients receive the majority of their phone calls. And then top call hour, this tells you the average top time of when your client receives calls. If it is later in the day, it could be that people are off work and it's best for them to call at that time. Now, using the top call hour and top call day, you can identify when and what time the client is getting majority of calls, or if the client is getting calls when the office is closed. Previously, we talked about identifying missed opportunities through the call log page. The top call hour and top call day can identify when those missed opportunities come in. For example, if Dr. Smith is closed on Friday, but we see a few unique callers are calling in that day, and they are not leaving a message, and they're not calling back, then it wouldn't be worthwhile for us to work with Dr. Smith to perform an experiment. The client should be asked to try and have the receptionist work on Friday for a month. If the client agrees, we should update some of the main online profiles we manage, like Yelp or Google Places, and the website to indicate the office is open on Fridays. However, we should add in a clause saying open on Fridays to accept new patients via phone. If the overall call volume for the month improves and we can get the receptionist to confirm that 2 to 3 new patients made appointments every Friday, then the client can cover the cost of having the receptionist work on Fridays and actually make more revenue because those new patients will make repeat appointments in the future. Remember, this is an experiment. There is no guarantee it will work, and the client should be informed of this fact. This is the power of call tracking. It helps identify trends, helps you come up with experiments, and helps to evaluate those experiments. Scrolling down, we get a graphical breakdown of calls by source. This segment shows you calls by source, meaning where they're coming from, like Google or if they were on the client's website. And you will also see the graphic breakdown of average call duration by source. This shows you how many seconds a call on average is lasting. All activities at Equa Marketing should have one call tracking number used, because through this number it will be easier to evaluate our performance. For example, the website, Yelp, Google Places, newsletter, Facebook, and any other material we create or manage should have one call tracking number used, so that at a later date we can highlight to the client that our efforts generated so many calls, patients, and so on. This is why call tracking is important, because it helps markets easily show their return on investment. Most clients implement marketing tactics outside of Equa, like print ads, radio ads, TV ads, and so on. It is highly advisable that the client servicing team should inquire from the clients if they are engaged in any marketing outside of Equa and offer them a unique call tracking number so we can evaluate the outside marketing efforts and then compare them to the marketing efforts of Equa. Most clients assume that print ads or radio ads generate most of the calls that they see. But in a recent example with an actual Equa Marketing client, we found that the client spent thousands of dollars on radio advertisements and believed that the radio ads generated most of the patient calls and wanted to discontinue his service with Equa Marketing. Because in his mind the radio ads worked, not SEO or online marketing. However, when we gave the doctor a unique call tracking number to be highlighted in the radio ads, we found out that the ads generated only 3 callers in 2 months, and the number placed on the website and online profiles we managed generated over 200 calls. Even if we do not have a call tracking number placed on the website, we should encourage clients to use call tracking to evaluate their marketing activities which are implemented outside of Equa. Now the last segment in the overview is new versus old calls. You'll get an idea of new callers and repeat callers and the source of where those new callers are coming from. Let's move on to Calls by Source Report. From the drop-down menu Reporting, click on Call Reports. The next several items we review will be a more in-depth breakdown for the month of the client that you saw in the overview. You will see a graph showing the dates, and then on the left side of the graph you will see the calls. Here you will see which sources the calls are coming from. Next we'll go to Receiving Numbers. Here you will see a breakdown of the designated phone numbers that the call tracking numbers are connected to and their statistics. Moving on to Tracking Number, similar to the segment we just looked at, here you'll get a breakdown of the tracking numbers and their statistics. Now let's take a look at tags. Previously we learned how to add tags to the phone calls. This segment shows you all the calls that you have added tags to. This also gives you a nice quick glimpse of what kind of calls you are receiving. And continuing on, we come to Calls by Day of the Week. This gives you a graphical breakdown of calls received on each day. And finally, we come to Calls by Hour of the Day. This can give you an idea of when the majority of the clients' received calls took place.